Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. This has been a long time coming and I'm super excited to actually start doing this. I just wanted to sit down in this very first video and give a little bit of background on myself. If you listen to my podcast, which is Higher Health on iTunes, you've heard a lot of my story, or at least bits and pieces of it. And I think the best way to start my YouTube channel is to give you guys a little bit of background on myself. This channel is going to be dedicated mostly to building a business, my entrepreneurial journey with Cured Nutrition right now, trying to teach people what it's like to take a really big risk and change your life to do something that you've dreamt of forever. And for me, it's been a crazy ride these last couple years, but especially since starting Cured in September 2017. And I think the best way to learn is to teach. So teaching and telling my story of this journey with Cured Nutrition, the business lessons I learn, the failures that we go through, the successes, and everything in between will be really beneficial for everybody as I put it out there into the world, and hopefully help some people along their journey too. If they want to work for themselves, great, then this may help. If you want to just get to a different place in life, this may also help, because I took a huge fucking risk, and it's very scary to do something like that. But that's what this channel is going to be dedicated to, giving you guys behind the scenes of what's going on with Cured Nutrition and my life as one of the founders. I was born in Virginia and moved to Colorado when I was 2 years old. So I basically say I'm from Colorado. I grew up in Littleton, Colorado, and that's actually where I live right now. We'll get into that in a little bit more details here soon, but grew up in Littleton, Colorado. Grew up in an absolutely amazing family, two loving parents that work harder than I've ever seen anybody before, and I'm truly blessed to have two amazing parents, an amazing sister, and just the most supportive group of people that I get to call my family, helping me through my journey. And whatever it is I do, they've always been there through all my failures. They've rooted me on through all my successes. Every single thing I can, even if I was alone, I know that I could look to my side in my imagination and know that my parents are there just rooting me on, regardless of what it is. So grew up in Littleton, Colorado, and I played a lot of sports through high school: basketball, golf, hockey. Hockey became my main passion. I broke my foot freshman year before tryouts for basketball, and so that ended up screwing things up, and then I recovered from that, and it was time for hockey season, and hockey just made sense. So I took the hockey route, and I truly loved hockey a lot. I don't think I was very good at basketball anyway, so it's probably good that I went the hockey route. But played ice hockey all through high school, and played on the golf team, which is something beautiful that I would love to get back into, and was always somebody interested in how things work. When I was a little kid, I would build Legos all the time. That was like my favorite thing to do. The most amazing gift that anybody could give me was a set of Legos. Like, it was just like, that was my love language for a while, and that's how I grew up as a kid, building things, designing things. And my dad, being an airline pilot, we got to travel a lot, and we flew all the time on vacation. I was definitely very fortunate for that, and I became really interested in how planes fly. And in high school, I got really interested in just science and outer space and the stuff that we don't see every day, how things work. And that started to guide me towards becoming an engineer. And I think it all made sense, because that was really the only thing that I was good at, was math and science. Reading and writing I was fucking terrible at. my ACTs in high school. I can't remember the exact scores, but it was like low 20s for reading and writing and low 30s for math and science. And then I ended up retaking the ACTs, and I took a reading course and took the ACTs again. I got better at math and science, so even higher, I think 34, and then got worse at reading and writing. So all that to say, English or anything along those lines, that was not the correct route for me. So engineering made sense. What also to me made sense was being able to come out of college and have a solid, good paying job. I went into engineering school and went to CU Boulder, Boulder, Colorado, University of Colorado, and that is where I really lost myself and who I was. And I guess I was always kind of like the jock, kind of preppy kid in high school. The first friends I started to meet in college were, I guess, not necessarily the people I always aligned with, not necessarily the jocks, the people that played sports. It's crazy. You go to college and then you end up in just this world of so many different backgrounds where you're like, fuck, I don't know who I am, I don't know who they are, but let's all connect, and then let's go get fucked up and let's drink and let's do the college thing. And that's what I did. I got into partying so much. I was the work hard, play hard mentality, and I did well in school the entire time. But sophomore year, it turned into doing a lot of drugs. We would go to raves all the time, and along with that environment came a lot of drugs. And I would say that I partied probably 5 out of 7 days a week, and that's probably pretty typical for a college kid. You'll probably hear that from a lot of people, but it became a really big issue. And I probably took ecstasy once a week for quite some time, and that alone just started fucking with my serotonin, with my brain, with the way that I thought. I've always had anxiety. I've always been this person that's always been wondering, what's that person thinking, or what should I be doing, or why am I doing this wrong, or that's just me. That's the way I've always thought. And in college, it started turning into crazy bad social anxiety, and we would go out and I would feel awkward. So I would suppress my anxiety by drinking a lot of alcohol, taking shots, getting to the point where I don't even know, I didn't feel that uncomfortable part anymore. I was just partying, being a crazy college kid, and along with the alcohol was the drugs, and it controlled my life for all of college. And I have to say that I definitely had a lot of fun. We went to a lot of fun music festivals. We connected in a crazy way. I connected in a crazy way to the people that were around me at that time, and just experiencing a music festival, out-of-body experiences, and escaping kind of the traps of your own mind, for me in college was something that was good for me and bad for me. Obviously, the drug end of it led to very destructive thought patterns, and it got to a point my senior year of college where we went to a music festival in Miami. We did drugs probably every day for a week straight on top of alcohol, and came home from that, and my serotonin levels were literally zero. And the 2 weeks after coming back from that spring break music festival in 2012 were the scariest 2 weeks of my life. And it was actually April 24th, 2012 when it all hit rock bottom. We went to a Nero concert in Denver, and at that time I was starting to take anxiety medication pretty regularly, and I knew that I shouldn't be drinking with it, but I drank with it and did drugs on top of it. And that night in 2012, it was a Tuesday, I completely lost myself and went over the edge, and I knew that I wasn't happy. I knew I was anxious. I knew I was getting depressed. I was frustrated with myself. I was so pissed at myself because I was living in a way that I knew wasn't me. And that Tuesday night after the concert in Denver, well, I blacked out at the concert in Denver, and I ended up, I honestly don't remember anything. And I know we took a bus back to Boulder that night, and I don't remember what we did when we got back to Boulder, but I do know that I left and started walking home, and on my way home on my way back to my place, I was crossing a bridge, and I looked over the bridge and felt like I was done, like I didn't want to live anymore. And I stepped over the guardrail, and I was looking down at the rocks, and I was ready to jump. And I don't know how how to describe the way that I felt very out of control of what I was doing, but I definitely had this idea in my head that I'm not living, I'm not the person I'm supposed to be, I'm not living the way I'm supposed to be, and I have all this inner pain that I'm suppressing through drugs and alcohol, that I was done. And looking down at the rocks, heard a voice, and I looked over to the left, and there was somebody sitting down there on the rocks. And he says, "Don't do it. Don't do it." And I don't really remember much after that besides being pulled over the guardrail, collapsing, getting his phone number, then making it back to my house and taking, I think, 6 or 7 Xanax. I don't remember what I was prescribed at the time, but just taking one on top of everything that I had already taken that night could have killed me again in itself. And my girlfriend at the time ended up being with me that night and came over and said that she had to sleep. She had to keep herself from falling asleep that entire night because she had seen what I had taken and just wanted to watch me breathe and be alive through the night. And we called my family the next morning and told them what happened, and they brought me to the hospital, and they started questioning me and asking me what I was doing, and I'll never forget when they asked me, "What you've been doing, what you've been taking," and I remember saying LSD, cocaine, mushrooms, marijuana, alcohol, Xanax, and looking at my mom and just seeing her crippled, and my dad and my sister that would literally do anything for me, seeing what my decision to end my life and the way that I treated my body, the way that it hurt them, I will never forget that. And I made it through that, and I got put on medication again, And I kept drinking, and over the course of the next couple of weeks, I would drink to the point where I would lose myself again, and I would cut my wrists, and I scared the shit out of all my friends. I blocked everybody out. I wouldn't talk to anybody. There was a few people that knew my story at a time in my life where I probably knew 30, 40, 50 people like that I would see regularly. Only a couple of them knew what I was going through because I was so fucking embarrassed of my actions and the way I was so lost. And I left Boulder and went back to living in Littleton and separated myself from all of my friends at the time and cut them out of my life. And they're all fucking good people. They're all great people, but the way that I was so influenced and made decisions at that time in my life was fucking embarrassing, and I couldn't be in that environment anymore, and I was done. I couldn't, my parents wouldn't let me go be there. That environment was literally killing me, so I had to leave. And that year I started my engineering career as an intern at a big aerospace company and worked 30 hours a week during the school year. I had an internship, and then going into the school year, my 5th year of college, I worked at my engineering career. I stayed part-time employee working 32 hours a week to keep my foot in the door, to change my life, to get my fucking shit straight. And I had to drive I would go to work in the mornings and do everything for my engineering career, and then I would drive up to Boulder, Colorado, and that was the year that I became the project manager. I've always had these leadership type skills and always been somebody to challenge myself, and in our senior design class I volunteered myself. I wanted to be the project manager, and I had experience at the engineering firm that we were doing the senior design project for, and it made sense because I had all the connections, and that's when I started stepping into a leadership role. And so I would go to my engineering job in the morning. I would drive to Boulder then after spending some hours at work, 45 minutes up to Boulder. We would work on our senior design project, and I would be in my other classes till 6 p.m. and then I would drive home to Littleton, and that was always in rush hour, so that would be another hour and a half, and I would get home late at night and sit down and just start crushing my senior design project and putting my energy, putting this crazy energy, putting my potential that I wasn't using finally into something. I had lost it all through college, and I just started working really, really hard to change my life and become the person that I know I could be. And during that 5th year of college, that was the first time I downloaded Instagram, and I started seeing people through Instagram competing, and I saw these people up on stage wearing board shorts and bikinis and having the most amazing physiques I've ever seen. And for me, I started working out when I was 10, when the doctor said you shouldn't be working out, you're going to stunt your growth. And it had always been something of my life, was working out, and I always wanted to have the abs that I would see on the magazines and the Myoplex boxes, the EAS meal replacement drinks. I can't remember what they were, but my dad would drink those when I was younger, and I always, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, I always want that. And I always worked out through high school and even through college when I was going through those terrible years of my life. But that year, being home, I started following this weird fitness movement on Instagram, and I was like, you know what? I'm working so hard, and I see what I've proven to myself that we had a very successful engineering senior design project. We ended up placing 3rd out of all the teams. I think there was like 30 something teams in that design class, and ended up getting that job full time at the engineering career, and stepped out of school and was like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm doing things right. And, you know, I cut everybody out of my life. So I was very lonely at the time, but I figured that that's it. I started seeing that that's just what I needed at the time. And I then went deep into trying to figure out how to get my body to its ultimate potential, and reached out to some coaches, just doing searches on Google trying to find physique coaches, bodybuilding coaches, and found a coach and started working with him, and thought I was in good shape. I've always had an ego, and that's been something that I've really been trying to work through even more recently, because I recognize it, and I recognize how it can hold me back so much. And I think that was a huge thing that was wrong in college, was this like ego of I'm this and I'm that, and I can drink and I can do all these drugs, and look at me. And I think probably people around me at the time would probably agree with that maybe I was a really nice person and I connected with a lot of people, and but it was just this weird side of me. But after meeting my first coach, basically got told that, yo, you got to put on a lot of size. Ended up spending like 8 months trying to bulk up. I went from 160 something pounds to almost 210, I think, and then trimmed down for my first competition. Won the overall, won everything at my very first physique competition. Ended up going to nationals in Miami later that year. Placed 5th at my first national show, and then just continued to compete. It was like, wow, I'm good at this. I can work so fucking hard and actually achieve something, and I have something to show that's like bettering me. So I thought, and that's when my addictive behavior started to come out again. And, you know, over the next 3 years, I kept competing, and a lot of people that probably follow me and that follow the fitness world see how people can be extremely selfish, and what competing actually leads to. So I competed for the next 4 years, 4 years. It controlled every second of my life, from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed, and the way I ate, the way I interacted with my family, the way I interacted with my friends, which were kind of few and far between at the time because I was so selfish and all I was doing was competing. I can't even remember, over 10, I think 12 total national shows, and never turned pro. I was like always in this, like I was always in the top 5, always like in the mix, but just could never turn pro. And I was like chasing this thing that I thought, oh, I'm going to turn pro. I'm going to make my life in the fitness industry. I'm going to turn pro, and it's going to give me a profession in the fitness industry. And that wasn't coming to fruition. I started coaching people on the side during my engineering job. I was, although I would say a decent engineer, a great hard-working person, I wasn't putting my full effort into engineering because bodybuilding was controlling my life. And so I was coaching people on the side. It was something where I thought, like, this is going to be my actual career path, and I was putting so much energy into every day. My engineering career was definitely struggling. And finally, after a couple years, I started to realize that, like, I don't think this is going where I want it to go, and I'm not going to get what I thought I was going to get out of it. And I ended up doing one more competition after doing, I did USA's in Vegas, and I placed 5th, and then I did North Americans, and I think I did my worst out of any national show, and was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know what's going on. And I went to the Olympia and did the flex model search because it was like the end of the season and I had gone through so many shows. I'm like, you know, I'm just going to do one more show. And I ended up winning that flex model search and won a decent cash prize. And then I was like, in my head, I was like, what am I chasing? I just won more money than any pro most likely ever wins, for the most part, unless you're one of the top people at the Olympia. And I didn't really get any magazine deals out of it. I didn't have a full-time career in the fitness industry. And I really just realized, like, dude, this competing thing is not going to get you to where you are. It's controlling every aspect of your life. Everything else is struggling around you, and you need to stop. So after that, it was a great time to quit my competing career. During my last year of competing, I was in a very serious relationship with someone that I actually met at a competition, and our lives definitely revolved around competing. That's where much of our connection was. And we were both living in Colorado at the time. I had been at my current job for now 7 years, and had always wanted to move to California. We got engaged in September of 2016, and we both had the idea of wanting to move to California. So my fiance and I tried to figure out, how we were going to make this happen. How are we going to get to California? And the entrepreneurial bug was always kicking during that time. As I said, I was trying to make a living in the fitness industry, and actually ended up starting a podcast at the time, Committed Physiques Radio. So I was interviewing a bunch of competitors, and thought that, part of getting out to California would be to take this whole fitness career to the next level. And I wasn't making a lot of money doing it. I was making a lot more money in my engineering career. So to get myself and my fiance out to California, it made sense to try and find an engineering job out there and be able to afford to move us out there and pay for us to live in San Diego, California, which is the most beautiful place ever, but so extremely expensive. And I ended up taking the very first job that I got offered at an engineering consulting firm, a smaller company there in San Diego. And we moved out to San Diego and wanted to, after being in Colorado my entire life, was ready to start a new life. And me and my fiance at the time moved out there and started definitely having some relationship issues. It was in my head, stepping away from competing. I personally, I know where I failed. I wanted her to be something that she wasn't, and that's extremely unfair. And if you're ever in a relationship and have the slightest idea of wanting somebody to change and thinking that they're going to change, you're not in the correct relationship, and that's okay. Not everybody's going to find not everybody's going to find the person that they want to spend the rest of their life with and go through the engagement and all that stuff and have it be successful the first time. And it got to the point where I actually really, really questioned if I was happy and if this is what I wanted. And we had been in San Diego for a couple months, and the relationship was just struggling so bad. And obviously moving to a new state is extremely stressful, and that stress on us and me trying to help her find a career path that she wanted and kind of, help support the both of us. I definitely wanted to be the person that can say, hey, like, I can support everybody, but moving to a new state is expensive, and that started the financial stuff started to cause a lot of issues in our relationship. And I know that I was definitely putting pressure on her to figure out what she wanted to do with her life. And this idea of like thinking that she was going to be something that she wasn't, it's a serious problem. Without getting into the crazy details of the end of the relationship, we ended up breaking up in April of last year of 2017, and that was the point where my life started to go in this crazy direction again, into being very, very alone again. Now being in a state where I hadn't lived before, and honestly being at a job that I didn't even really want to be at. I took that job to get us out there, and I knew it would be good paying, and that's about it. I had my podcast on the side. I transformed that from competing to what was then Committed Physiques Radio turned into Higher Health, and along with me trying to figure out my life and what it was going to look like, not being a competitor but still trying to make a career in the fitness industry, turned into the Higher Health podcast, and I started really learning a lot about myself and what I wanted by being so alone in San Diego, and going to a job where, there were a couple people that I definitely connected with, but I didn't want to hang out with these people outside of work, and I had never really connected with other engineers. I wouldn't say that I am a stereotypical engineer, and that was very evident in my days in that field, and not hanging out with them, and not really having friends from work outside of work. So Higher Health started to become my main focus, and before I actually moved to California, myself and two friends were starting on the side. So in addition to me doing personal training and competing myself and full-time engineering career, I was with two partners at the time starting a cannabis company in Colorado. And cannabis has been something that has been a part of my life for a very long time. Like I said in the beginning of the video, back in high school, I started using it, and that never, people were like, oh, it's a gateway drug and this and that, and that's fucking wrong. I would say alcohol is the thing that led me down the wrong path. But I had noticed that for me, anxiety and relaxing and being able to sleep and just using cannabis in general was never something that was bad, and it still isn't. But on the side, while I was still in Colorado, myself and two friends started the idea of getting into the cannabis industry. And so I basically had 5 things going on, trying to be a fiance, trying to figure out what competing, trying to be a fiance, competing, my engineering career, personal training, Committed Physiques Radio podcast, and then the cannabis stuff on top of it. Nothing was going in any successful direction. And once I got out to California, the cannabis stuff kind of fell by the wayside, and I was still focusing on being in the fitness industry and what that's going to look like, and what is healthy, what is the definition of health. And I knew that competing wasn't healthy because I saw what it turned my life into. And I can't say that that's the case for everybody. Some people can approach it a lot differently and actually have it be something a great part of their life forever. And it definitely led me and introduced me to a lot of people, and it's helped me actually now in my business. But Higher Health was evolving over the courses, the end of the spring and into the summer, and I one day had this idea, and I said, how about I bring cannabis to the fitness industry? And Higher Health seemed like, whoa, those things kind of go together. And so I called up an old friend that I've stayed in contact with from engineering school, and I knew he was in the cannabis industry. I knew he had left his engineering career, and started talking to him about, hey, like, what would it look like for us to get into the cannabis industry in California? And we started playing around with ideas of getting a grow operation going out in California and breeding strains to be specific for uses in the health and fitness industry. And that seemed like something that was really cool. And like, I was like, you know what, there's something here. And that idea continued to evolve. And May of 2017, I had an idea to come out with a CBD product. So I started using CBD in the beginning of 2017, just the CBD oil. It's a derivative of the cannabis plant, a non-psychoactive component, and started seeing great benefits in my sleep and reducing my anxiety and just my overall recovery from training at the time. And so it seemed like this first step of getting a product out there into the market and starting to build Higher Health would be, let's release a CBD product and start to build a brand off of a product that we can ship nationwide. And I have a friend that's a chef, and hit him up, said, hey, I have this idea that we can make CBD infused spices, and well, can you do that? Can we start messing around with that? And I talked to my partner, T.O., Taylor O'Donnell, who you guys will see plenty in my videos, and said, let's start trying to source this. And, he had a lot of experience in the cannabis industry, but hemp-derived CBD, which was actually legal nationwide, was something where we could build a brand and start to evolve this higher health journey just by building a brand off of a simple product in the beginning. And that's where the spices came from, and it was cured spices. You cure all the herbs are cured, and it kind of went along with cannabis as well. When you hang dry and cure cannabis, have it dry, the name, when we first spit it out, it made sense. So that's where cured nutrition came from. But the first product was cured spices. That was our first product line, and we started hyping it over the summer months of last year when we were experimenting with different flavors, and it started to seem like this was going somewhere, and I was podcasting and talking to more and more people about cannabis and CBD and the health benefits of it, and how could this is actually what the fitness industry needs. And at the same time, of course, I'm working my engineering job, and got to the point where I wasn't being accepted. I wasn't getting invited to team meetings. I came from an engineering career at a large corporation where I thought I could bring a lot of value to this smaller company, and was just getting shut down left and right. And probably I would definitely say that my performance was lacking because I just didn't feel accepted. I was definitely kind of depressed at the time. I was lonely. I was in my head trying to start Cured Nutrition, and we were trying to start Cured Nutrition on the side, and Higher Health was going with the podcast, and I would work from 6 a.m. at the engineering job to 6 p.m. sometimes, leave that, go home, work on my own business on the side every single day. And that's how I suppressed the pain of the breakup and being very lonely in San Diego, and not knowing anybody there, not hanging out with anybody from work. I just would work all day long, every single day. And Cured Spices started to evolve. We were hyping the launch for several months. I started, hitting up people on Instagram, started the Cured Spices account, and started literally, in the very beginning, had 10 followers, and was started educating people on CBD, and said, do you want a free sample? We'll send it out to you. We sent out hundreds and hundreds of free samples to start to have people posting about it on Instagram and build up an account and build a demand for something. And got to the point where I was interviewed on several podcasts about what Cured Spices was, and how I was bringing a cannabis product to the fitness industry. And in September of 2017, that was our first, I went to the Olympia and was passing out free samples to anybody and everybody at the Olympia of our product. We were still hyping, and we knew that one of my episodes of a podcast was going to go live. A great episode of Higher Health was going to go live, and it was the perfect time to launch the company. September 18th of 2017, 18th at midnight, and then I guess September 19th, 2017 was the launch of Cured Spices. We had an amazing product launch, and after hyping it for several months, we're just blown away by the response of people that were ordering and starting to learn and get excited about this derivative of cannabis that so many people were writing off. Cannabis gets written off for not serving any good, and I was educating people left and right on what it was, and had an amazing first product launch. And Cured Spices was the stepping stones to what we were planning with Higher Health, and then it just made sense for Higher Health to be its own entity, and for us to start coming out with more products under something that then became Cured Nutrition. because we were like, okay, cured spices, what's the next product? Let's come out with some oils, something that's seen in the industry all the time. Cured spices the CBD spices are extremely unique, and I think that's something that really stood out and I thought was cool in the beginning. So we came out with the next product, and we were like, okay, we're going to come out with an actual CBD oil. Well, should it be cured oil? Yeah, let's do that. Let's just make everything cured this, cured that. And it's just seemed really easy and straightforward. And so then we said, what about making the company Cured Nutrition and come out with more and more products that are just continued to focus on the health and fitness industry. And that was September of 2017, and I was flying back and forth. We launched and designed and built manufactured all the products in Colorado. It started in my parents' kitchen, and things were going great over the months after launch, and there's many ups and downs, but and I'm going to get into those in more detail as I release more videos. But hit rock bottom in the first couple months and lost a lot of money and learned a lot of lessons and came out with more and more products and started to come out with the next product was a cookie dough, which I was like, all right, what's that going to look like? And actually October of 2017 is when we started messing around with that. And if you guys follow Cured, we didn't end up launching Cured dough until March of 2018. So just goes to show you how long it takes to perfect a product and market a product and hype the launch of it. But at the time, flying back and forth from San Diego to Colorado to meet my business partner and to go source ingredients and to continue to develop the business, I was on over 40 flights from September to March of 2018. And in March of 2018, I moved from San Diego back to Colorado, where I am now. We moved Cured into our first big headquarters. I say big headquarters, but it's like a 2,000 square foot building. And now we're here in Colorado, living the Cured life every single day, still podcasting on the side, which I've struggled at time to time, and now opening up this YouTube channel to give more of the Cured story. I know this has been a crazy long video, and those that have stayed around the whole time, I truly appreciate you, and just want to let you know there's a lot going to be coming from me and the Cured story through this channel. And here we are. April 2018, 7 months after the launch of Cured Spices, about a year after the very first call from myself to my partner Taylor O'Donnell, and starting to come up with this business. And we're just excited to see where it goes. So I'll save more of the business details for further podcasts, because these 7 months have been so shaping, and I've learned so much, and there's so much that I can share with you guys that are going to follow along this journey that we'll dive into it more deeply in future videos. But that's the background of me and my story and how I got to where I am now. I guess I didn't even say that. September of 2017, it got to the point where I was being so ridiculed and belittled at work that I said, you know what, this side Cured and higher health journey, it's time for me to go all in. And I actually quit my job in September of 2017 at the worst possible time. I was financially struggling, trying to float a $2,800 rent at my apartment in San Diego. I had bought a new car before I moved to California, and worked extremely hard to get there to be able to buy that through my engineering career, but have that crazy expense supporting that and trying to start a business and throwing all my money into it. But September of 2017, quit my job. I said it's time to go 100% all in, and that story is a great story too, and I'll get more into the details of that in my channel. But that's what finally made this takeoff, was going 100% all in. And like I said, that led to a very successful launch in September of last year of Cured Spices, and allowed me to really put 100% all I've got into something, rather than 5 different things like I said I was doing for a while and not really achieving anything great in any of them. I finally just said, you know what, Higher Health and Cured, I'll take that $0 paycheck for the next however long it's going to be, because I'm going to be doing finally something that I really want to do and I'm really passionate about. And September of 2017, quit my job, had very little money to spend, but it was time, and went all in. And you know, from September of 2017 to now, I haven't been able to pay myself at all, but I'm so happy because I'm finally doing something that is fully aligns with my beliefs in life and around cannabis, and bringing something to the health and fitness industry that shouldn't be stigmatized and has been stigmatized for so long, and trying to be a thought leader and somebody that actually makes difference in other people's lives. And that's what Cured has been so far. So I thank you all for tuning into this video. Stay tuned for more. Subscribe to my channel. Give it a like. Throw me some comments if you guys want to hear from me. And yeah, here we go.